What is going on, everybody? This is Drew here. I want to welcome you all to a brand new episode of Phoenix Down. This is Phoenix Down episode number... Intermission. I've already screwed that up. Intermission number 35. I looked it up and everything, and then I just went on about my regular crap. But I'm Drew, and of course I have with me Matt Quinn.
Hello.
And so, yeah, this is going to be an intermission show. Particularly, we are going to be discussing the game that we want to do for Game 100. So,
big one.
Yeah, it's a big one. So currently, we are on Game 98, which, for the time being, has been selected to be Sunset Overdrive. That may change. We're not entirely sure just yet. But we do know what Game 99 will be, which is going to be Dead Space 3. We plan on doing a co-op playthrough of Dead Space 3 for A Nightmare Before Christmas. And then Episode 100, which I'm guessing will probably begin at the beginning of the year, I'm assuming, depending on how everybody is as far as scheduling goes and stuff like that. But we want to make it special. We want to make it a game that I wouldn't say fan favorite, but I would say a game that has to be played, right?
Yeah. One that's worthy of the crown of Game 100. Exactly.
So we want to do a game that's like timeless. A game that, sure, popular, or, you know, one of the greatest games of all time, which is very subjective because I looked at a bunch of lists today and I was like, that is not one of the best games of all time. So I did write down a small list of games that I believe, for me, would be worthy of Game 100. Now, Matt, this is totally up to you. I feel like, for some odd reason, I want to do a game at least one of us has never played before. It doesn't have to be, but I feel like it would be a little bit more special if it was something one of us hasn't experienced or both of us haven't experienced. Which, unfortunately, every game on this list is something I've played. So
to completion?
Yes. I think no, this is not true. There are a few games on this list I have not completed.
Because there are a lot of classic games. Everyone on the short list that I had sent over to you, I have started, and 0 of them have I finished.
Right. So, if you want to, I'll just go ahead and get into mine.
Yeah. How many are on the list?
Let's see here. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
11 classics.
11. Well, I would say 11 games that I'm pretty sure the most of the people listening to this will be like, I could see that. So, the first one being A Link to the Past.
Yeah, I still sit never having finished a Zelda game.
Have you played A Link to the Past before in any certain way?
I have started it. I have not finished it.
So, I will firmly say A Link to the Past is one of the best games that's ever been made. With that said, it is not my favorite Zelda game of all time. Now, I know that's heresy in a lot of people's eyes. The other issue I see running into doing A Link to the Past is that it is a Super Nintendo game that doesn't have much story to talk about.
Yeah, it's a lot of going through caves and forests.
Exactly. So it's kind of like we went here, we did this, we fought this boss. You know, it feels like I would not be able to give that game justice talking about it on a podcast. I could be wrong. The next game, Ocarina of Time, which is my favorite Zelda game of all time.
Which is also one that is probably top of my list that I would like to play of the Zelda games.
Why that over A Link to the Past?
Because it was still, for me, it was in that window where I had seen some of the N64 3D games, but hadn't been able to experience them, having only a PS1 at the time. And I don't think that Ocarina of Time made quite the impact that Mario 64 did, but both of those games I remember seeing other people play or displays or videos and just kind of being amazed at the 3D world and being able to traverse it in that way. And so it's always held this kind of fascination of, it probably did anyway, but the fact that it's so well regarded on top of that really makes it intriguing.
Yeah, that's like, my wheelhouse right there. I think 1997, I believe, was when that came out. So I was like 12, 13.
Yeah, I've got a lot of nostalgia for those couple of years.
Yeah. 96 to about 99. Those are like my prime time, those were my games that I like, I adore, even though I may be looking at them with rose-tinted glasses, because as much as I love Ocarina of Time, I bet you if I try and play it right now.
See some of those flaws?
Yeah. And here's the other problem I have with Ocarina of Time. There's only two places you can play that game. You can play it on the Nintendo 64, which I do not own, or the Nintendo 3DS. I don't know.
I actually have both versions and ready to go.
Oh, there you go. I don't know if I want to sit down with a Nintendo 3DS and play a 30-hour action RPG on my 3DS. I don't know. I don't own that version. And everybody says that is the definitive version of Ocarina of Time, is the 3DS version.
Yeah, I mean, if it's the best version of a fantastic game on a easily accessible, if not easily played system.
True.
Yeah, that's certainly an option there.
So this one I put on here because I have played part of it, but I have not finished it. It's also one of those games that is like Game of the Year, which is also one of those games that is Game of the Generation. I put it on here just because, but I don't think we should do it. Red Dead Redemption 2. And the reason why is because you haven't actually played Red Dead Redemption.
And it's also interesting looking at a lot of these best of lists. If you go by like best rated, a lot of the heaviest hitters are more recent games.
Yeah.
Right? And you'll see these just like absolute, epitomes of kind of like a perfect game of this genre or of this generation. And because there's not the nostalgia associated with them, and because they didn't necessarily start genres, I feel like I can appreciate them for what they are, for the quality of the work that went into them.
Right.
But I find it hard to say that they're as definitive a game as a game like Ocarina of Time or Mario 64 or Symphony of the Night.
Right. So here's the thing I found. If you Google search best video games of all time, guess what the first thing that pops up is?
Ocarina of Time?
Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't see it.
I mean, for me, 3 would have a better argument. Because that was the one that that was a whole new dimension.
That was a game changer. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I can appreciate that 5 is obviously better than 3, but that isn't necessarily the reason I would pick it for a game 100.
Yeah. I just I've tried to play Grand Theft Auto 5 twice. I had it on 360, and then I bought it on PlayStation 4 whenever it re-released. And I was just like, I made it almost to the exact same spot again. And I was just like, I don't think I actually like this video game. I don't think I like Grand Theft Auto.
Now, or have you when 3 and Vice City came out.
I played...
What was your thought then?
All right, so 3 I only played a little bit of. Vice City I played a crap ton of. And San Andreas I played a crap ton of until I got to that mission where I had to do the remote control airplane and said, I'm never playing this video game again, and never went back to it. But I play like Vice City to me is the best in that entire series.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think 3 was the game changer, but Vice City is what really polished it, gave it character, and smoothed it out a bit.
The next game is one of those hardcore nostalgia games. I mean, it's one of my most played games of all time. Haven't played it in 20 years. Diablo 2.
Yeah, I own it, and I've started it, and I remember when it came out watching people play it, but I have not put more than an hour into it.
So, if you look at my Open Critic page, because I guess that's what defines me, my top 3 games of all time that I have on Open Critic, and still hold true to this day, are Metal Gear Solid, Diablo 2, and Resident Evil 2. Diablo 2 was an obsession for me because that game came out when I was either 14 or 15. I can't remember when exactly, but it was during that time where I couldn't drive and I had nothing else to do.
Yeah, that was certainly a factor. I mean, it's not usually held up as the reason for nostalgia, but when you get so few games per year and you have so many fewer other things going on in life, right? I think you can form that attachment so much better, so much stronger.
Yeah, and that was like I did nothing but play Diablo. I'm talking like for that entire year. I played nothing but Diablo 2. I was obsessed with it, and here's the thing. There are classes in that game I have never played because I almost exclusively played the Necromancer. And when they released the Necromancer for Diablo 3, I was like, hells yes, I am going to get that character. And so it was amazing. But yeah, I was obsessed with the Necromancer and Diablo 2. That was like that was crack cocaine for me. I played nothing but that game. And I have no idea how well it holds up. I have not touched that game in, like I said, almost 20 years probably.
Yeah, I finally picked up a copy to own when they did that, I think it was called the Battle Chest, where it was Diablo 1, Diablo 2, and
Lords of Destruction, I believe.
Yep, the Diablo Battle Chest and the StarCraft Battle Chest.
Maybe that's something I need to put on the list because I have never played StarCraft.
Ever.
I
would. So it's interesting because it's so very different. I guess a lot of games are this way, but for me especially because I don't usually play both halves of a game like this in that way, but having played through the StarCraft campaign, the Brood War campaign, and then also having spent, I think StarCraft for me is probably the game I put the most hours into in my life. And so having played both halves of that game, yeah, it certainly held up. I don't know if it still holds up. I did actually re-download it to play it a month ago and just played the first mission or two, and it was pretty good.
There you go. So there's another one we could add to the list too. The next game on my list is another one of my top 3 games of all time, Resident Evil 2. I know the listeners would poo-poo on that idea. I'm sorry, but Resident Evil 2 is like one of my favorite games of all time. It is leaps and bounds better than the original Resident Evil. Like, I still to this day like that's one of my things I love to talk about is I fell in love with Resident Evil, and when Resident Evil 2 came out, I was there day one. I picked it up and I was like, everything is confined to this mansion. And Resident Evil 2, let's turn it up to freaking 11. Now we're in a city.
Yeah, it was such a great sequel in that way.
Yeah. And it's
exactly what I think you would want out of a sequel, right? It's bigger, it's better, it's still got a great level of like ridiculousness, and I don't know, it was fantastic. I mean, I fell in love with 1, so I think nostalgically 1 is my favorite. I think 2 is certainly the best of the original 3, but I also have a wicked soft spot for 3.
See, I didn't like 3 at all.
I like the nemesis coming after you. It clearly isn't as good as 1 or 2 in my mind, but I don't think it's that much worse.
I feel like I feel like they handled the quote unquote nemesis parts of Resident Evil series 10 times better with Mr. X in the remake of Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
Because in fact, crazy enough, I booted up, didn't know what to play. And I was like, I haven't finished the Resident Evil 3 remake yet. So I booted it back up today. And
it's today?
Yeah, today. Like legit, like probably about 3 hours ago. And played probably about 40 minutes of it. And I made it to the part where you play as Carlos and you're in the hospital. Mm-hmm. And I just I stopped there and saved. And I was like, all right, well, I'll come back to this eventually. But I don't know. Resident Evil 2, like the original and the remake, are both phenomenal games.
Yep.
But
100% agree.
But yeah, I still don't think we should do Resident Evil 2. It's just like to me and you, that is like perfection, classic, forever. But to the gaming at large, I don't think. I feel like Resident Evil 2 has had too much of a spotlight recently.
Yeah, Resident Evil's been big lately, so yeah, I can see it's certainly not going to have that newness that you mentioned at the beginning, right? Where ideally one of us hasn't played it, but even if we have both played it, ideally it'll be a game that we haven't played recently, and there has been a lot of Resident Evil in my life over the past couple of years, and that's never a bad thing, but
yeah. So the next one is another one of those revolutionary games, and you actually mentioned it earlier, Super Mario 64.
Yep. I mean, that certainly would warrant, I think, the Game 100 spot, right? I mean, it's clearly iconic. It's clearly defining. It's I've played the first 4 or 5 levels a dozen times easily, and I've never played beyond that.
So I've 100% completed that game. Like I got 120 stars. Saw Yoshi at the top of the castle, all that stuff. But yeah, that was years and years ago. I do have the Mario collection here, and I did boot up Mario 64, and I said, "Whoo boy, this is rough." And the bad thing is that 64 and Sunshine, I'm like, this is kind of rough to play.
I thought Sunshine was a little rough to play just because the controls felt a little bit odd.
Aiming of Flood feels really off to me.
Yep.
Galaxy,
and the fact that
I
it's
jumped
like,
right into Galaxy.
Yeah, see, Galaxy's the one I didn't start. I played like 5 minutes of it, but I haven't really started it because I want to put time into 64 for the first time ever-ish. Yeah. And I know Galaxy is super well regarded, and I absolutely must play it, but I thought it would be easier to play 64 if I hadn't played Galaxy first.
You would be right there. Galaxy is the most refined of those 3 games.
Yeah.
Um,
I was also eager to dabble in Sunshine because it's one I've never really even seen, let alone played.
I still love Sunshine. In fact, I prefer it over 64 or Galaxy, if we're being honest. Going back to it and playing it. Oh, yeah. But going back to it now and playing it on the Switch, I was just like, man, the games have progressed since then. That's the thing. On the GameCube, 120 Sun Sprites, those things, or the Shine Sprites, or whatever they're called. I have 100 completed all three of those games before. I absolutely adore the 3D Mario games.
Yeah. Well-trodden territory.
Yes. The next game, which is my favorite RPG of all time, which is Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, I mean, again, people could argue which one is the best.
Yeah.
But for me, there's no competition as to which one's the most definitive. But again, maybe that's just people of my age would say that. But, I mean, I still remember 7 just being so different because, I've said this a few times, but it was at a time when I didn't play RPGs, and I didn't play it then. I never played it, or never played more than 5 minutes of it when it was a new game. But I did have a friend who bought it and played it and loved it, and I spent a fair amount of time watching him play it, and was certainly intrigued. But then, I went back to my Resident Evils, Metal Gear Solids, and Dino Crises, and Twisted Metal. I just wasn't into RPGs. I don't know why. I just had never really been exposed to them, and didn't really appreciate Final Fantasy VII until later.
Yeah. So I played it. That was, I think, the reason why it's my favorite Final Fantasy is because it was my first Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to say I played 6. I want to say I played 4, which was Final Fantasy 3 on the Super NES, I think. But I can't remember, and even if I did, I feel like I was too young to understand them. Final Fantasy VII was like, I was an early teen, and I understood what I was doing, because I feel like some of these RPGs were just kind of too complex for what I understood. I understood to hit the A button and you jump. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, Final Fantasy VII, I absolutely fell in love with that game when I was a kid, and I still think it's the best for me personally. And I understand other people say otherwise, which is why I also have on the list Final Fantasy VI, because that seems like everybody's Final Fantasy VI is better. That's what they always say, right? And I have played through and finished Final Fantasy VI before, and yes, it is a good video game.
See, for me, after 7, if we're talking iconic ones, I would have said 10.
See, 10... Yeah, 10 was up there. 10 was like, so that was the first one to have voice acting, and that was like a pretty big deal. I don't know. I think, to be honest with you, I won't even attempt to rate them or rank them, but I like all the Final Fantasies with the exception. I don't like 8. I don't like 8. I know a lot of people hate to hear that, but I don't like Final Fantasy 8. I prefer 9 over 8. I prefer 9 over 10. I feel like 10. I really like the sphere grid system in 10. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, me too.
And honestly, I like Final Fantasy 4. Final Fantasy 4, the one with Cecil.
That's one I always hear held up as potentially the best of all Final Fantasies.
That to me, I prefer that over 6. I know everybody called him Cecil. I even called him Cecil until I heard the voice acting and he said Cecil. I'm like, what the hell? But to me, and here's my thing, I love the dynamic with Cecil and Kain. Like, to me, Kain is one of the best Final Fantasy characters out there. Like, because it's a redemption story for that dude. It's a redemption story for both of them. Because they start out as the bad guys. And they don't realize they're the bad guys. But, yeah.
Yeah, so at least there's a bit more meat, right? If you're talking A Link to the Past, you may not have as much to delve into character-wise, story-wise, but I think any of these Final Fantasies give you a lot more to discuss, obviously.
Oh, they absolutely do. Sticking with the classic JRPGs, Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, it's hard to argue against Chrono Trigger. I mean, that whatever list we have and how many ever games are on that list, I think that Chrono Trigger for me is going to be top 3 or top 5, definitely. I've never played more than 2 hours of it. I played that first 2 hours a couple times. And you only hear such reverence when discussing that game.
Yeah. And it's
and I even see articles that are like, even if you thought this game was good, it's still super good. You should replay it in 2020.
It's really good. I've beat that game twice. Beat it once on Super NES and beat it once on the 3DS, or it might have been the DS. I can't remember what
I think
version.
It was on the DS.
I think it was the DS, yeah. But I've completed Chrono Trigger twice, and it is one of the best JRPGs ever made. The next on my list is a more modern game. Well, I say modern, but it's almost 10 years old at this point. And it's a game I've never finished. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one for me, because maybe the best thing I could get personally out of playing Skyrim would be a if not a love and appreciation of kind of Western RPGs. I've played a good amount of Oblivion and Skyrim and Fallout and never really enjoyed any of them.
What do you think that is? Because it's just too big, too much in there?
Yeah, I think it's probably maybe my over-adherence to wanting a narrative and characterization, and I feel like when I play those games, I enjoy the first couple hours, and then it opens up more, and I'm just like, God, I don't know what to do. Am I supposed to make my own fun here? I don't know how to do that. I feel like I end up walking into the woods looking for fun, and then just walking into the woods for hours. I'm like, I've done that in real life. I don't know. I feel like what I need is to dive into one of those games with enough reason and enough commitment to get over that hurdle to where I understand the appeal of it.
Well, a lot of the appeal is you can do what you want in those games. You know what I mean? Like, it is the walk east until you run into something. But
see, when people describe that in The Witcher or The Witcher 3, right, it makes sense to me. You can stumble off and you'll find your own little short story and it'll be amazing, but still narrative, but still off the main trail. And when I feel like, and nobody's told me this is just my impression, is that walking off and finding something fun to do is going to be like, oh, you found a pack of 4 wolves and killed them. And I'm like, really? Is that fun? Is that what I'm looking for? Is that the payoff to this wandering? Is I found a troll, or I found some wolves, or I found a rock that I can mine and get some ore out of it? I don't know. Nobody's ever said, look, you're missing the point. Here's why it's so great. what I hear a lot of is you can make your own fun. I'm like, I don't know what that means, I don't think.
Well,
so
there is a mainline story to those games.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never did them. That's the thing. I probably put 30 to 40 hours into Skyrim, and I remember it distinctly. It was, you do the first part, you escape from the dragon, all that mess. You do a few things, you kill a dragon, and then you're told to go speak to the Greybeards. I then decided I'm not going to go talk to the Greybeards, and went wherever I wanted and joined like the Thieves Guild and joined the Dark Brotherhood, and I was just like, I became somebody before I went and talked to the Greybeards, which apparently is the actual beginning of the game. And I never did that. So I mean one of my life decisions is I'm going to beat Skyrim one day.
I have a lot of interest in playing it because I have a lot of questions.
Okay. What kind of questions do you want answered?
Why do people enjoy it? What is this fun I'm supposed to make for myself?
Oh God, man!
And on top, all those questions, but also then, hey, there's also a narrative. Is it any good? I love the idea of a whole open world. It's funny because they've done this, but when I played Skyrim, or at least thinking about what I played in Skyrim, I'm like, man, if I could have a VR experience that was Skyrim, that would be all I ever need out of life, is a world to explore. Now that's changed a little bit, and my thought was, if I could have The Witcher 3's world, but fully in VR, I mean, I could spend my life in there.
I was about to say, you can play Skyrim in VR.
Yeah, I know you can. It doesn't work for me, but other people have played it, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's my computer, my cable, or the USB port I'm trying to plug my Quest into, but something isn't. So there's some kind of rate limiting step there that I need to sort out to, kind of fully access my Steam VR games.
To actually talk about that a little bit, I tried VR for the first time last weekend.
Last weekend?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yep, went over to Alan Bell's, my old roommate's place. He just recently purchased a Quest 2.
Yeah, I got mine as well. I was finally able to sell my Quest 1, which allowed me to get the Quest 2.
There you go. And I found it very intriguing, but I don't want to play my video games that way. I found the technology fascinating. So the whole virtual playroom, and with the wireframe, and if you walk too far, it you go through the wireframe and you can actually see it's a camera.
Yep.
I thought that was fascinating.
Yep. And I love the untethered nature of it.
Yes. That is the only way I would want to play VR.
Yeah.
And we did play one game. It was a techno shooter.
Pistol Whip.
I played Pistol Whip, and he was downloading that Walking Dead game.
Saints and Sinners, yeah.
Saints and Sinners. But he didn't have it downloaded in time before I had to leave. But I did find that technology really impressive.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I wouldn't want to play every game that way, but I'm intrigued to see them kind of pushing that technology. I've been really impressed with some of the games, and just really amazed at just the simple fact of turning around and seeing what's behind you, in actually doing that, not tilting my joystick to the left. That I don't know if you played. I mean, for me, the most impressive thing I played when I got my Quest was the Star Wars game, Episode 1 of the Star Wars kind of trilogy.
Right. I didn't That was the only thing I played was the gun one.
Because, the first thing you do in that game is basically, like, take the helm and, like, jump to light speed. And being able to look around and see that around you and having Darth Vader walk up behind you, I mean, it gives you a sense of scale as well. I mean, I don't know. I was just really impressed with that feeling of being in it.
Right.
I like that. I like the immersion. And then the one other thing I really liked about it, I think probably my favorite game that I've played on the Quest is Pixel Ripped, 1995.
What's that?
And it's a game where you play a kid playing a game, and it does a lot of, like, genre hopping, but also what level of game are you in? So you play as, like, the game character that the kid's playing, and then you play as the kid playing the game. And then, there's a little bit of kind of dimension breaking where the characters in the game that the kid's playing then come out into his world, and you're battling a monster on your living room floor because it's emerged out of a video game.
Okay, that seems kind of interesting.
It does a lot of really cool things like that, where you're basically your 2D and your 3D kind of mashed together, and you're trying to save your 2D world, and they call on you, the player, to come in and save them, a little bit like Neverending Story. In some parts you play in the game, and you're also trying to distract your parents and kind of manage both versions of that world at the same time. So I think it's not like as immersive as a game like Star Wars, but it's an interesting way to use the VR tech, I think.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. I just I had a decent time with it. I thought that those small experiences would probably be the only thing that would work for me.
Yeah, and I feel like most of the games are those small experiences. Like Pistol Whip's a great one. I mean, some of the classics like Super Hot VR is really good. Beat Saber is really good for what it is.
Yeah.
It's fun. And I actually had a problem with my Quest where I just had a real problem tracking, and so it would be jittery, and it would stop tracking my hands, and every time I turned around, it would lose tracking of the room around me and of my controller. So it was functional, but it wasn't smooth. The upgrade to the 2 now has really smoothed that out, and it's like a whole new experience.
Yeah, they even track your hands now.
Yeah.
Which I found impressive.
I haven't tried it yet on the 2. I tried it on the 1, but it was still kind of like in beta and a little bit buggy for me.
Yeah. Of course, I did the first thing everybody does whenever you can see your hands. I flicked everybody off in the room. So, but yeah, and the last game on my list, and it's a game that I don't think we're actually going to do, but I'll throw it out there anyway. Pokemon.
That would be an interesting one.
Yeah.
I own a number of them, mostly just the oldest ones.
Yeah, which has no story whatsoever.
Yeah. That's one I'd like to, I think that for me would be like a perfect game for a one-off where we could just dive in for 3 or 4 or 5 hours in a week and then talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, like those games are not short. Like they're probably 20 hours or so.
Yeah.
And obviously if you're catching them all, it's going to take even longer. But going through all the gym leaders and stuff like that takes a while. A lot of grinding in those games.
Yeah.
And that's my list. Is there anything?
It's a pretty good list.
Yeah, I mean it's a decent start. But I mean, what about you, Matt? I mean, what's a game that you feel like needs to be on this list? What do you feel like needs to be played?
Well, I mean, some of my, I think, must-plays would be on your list already.
Right.
The short ones I had kind of sent over to you. I think the only other bit of a spin is that I was intrigued to go back and play some of the first games in the series.
Yeah.
So, like Final Fantasy 1, which I actually have played a lot of. I found it very difficult to know what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
But also like Dragon Quest 1, Suikoden 1, Diablo 1. 2 would probably be a lot more easy to play.
Diablo 1 is rough.
Yeah. And then I had Symphony of the Night on there. Again, I played that a lot, but only the beginning a lot.
So you've never actually beaten Symphony of the Night?
Nope.
Yeah,
that's another whole series. I've never beaten a Castlevania game other than the one we did. I've never beaten a 2D Castlevania game, I guess.
Gotcha. Yeah. We beat Lords of Shadow.
Yeah. That was excellent.
That's a fucking great game. Sequel is garbage, but that first game, amazing. Symphony of the Night, man, that's classic. That is a classic game. I've beaten it several times.
Didn't put, I think other ones, that we have done already that could have been on this list would have been like Metal Gear Solid, the first one.
Yeah, that to me, especially considering me and you,
yeah,
like that would have been like the given, easy,
yeah,
easy. We're doing Metal Gear Solid for 100, of course.
Would have been surprised to get to game 100, not having already played it. But
yeah,
if we had been in that scenario, it would have been a perfect one.
Yeah. Look, we've already played our favorite game of all time. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so how about this? How about, is there a game out there that you've always wanted to play but you haven't at all?
I mean, many hundreds.
Well, you want to give me maybe an example of a couple of them?
Yeah, I mean, if we're trying to narrow it down a bit, I would focus around some of the iconic series that I've really missed out on. So for me, that's Zelda, that's Mario, that's, again, maybe Dragon Quest, maybe Chrono Trigger, just kind of as a standalone being on that list. But I mean, to me, those are some of the most iconic games that I've wanted to play more than others. Right? There's hundreds of games I want to play, but these are the ones that I feel that I've missed by not having played them. So as opposed to just having them on the list, and I'll get to them at some point.
Right. Well, is there anything you want to add, or do you want to start narrowing this stuff down? I'm going to Google search best games of all time again.
Yeah, I've done that a lot of times in the last couple of months. I'm not sure that I would add anything to the list that we haven't discussed that would be in the same tier as the ones we played.
True. This is true. According to Mashable. Let's see what they say. A Mind Forever Voyaging, 1985. Infocom's classic text adventure. Sid Meier's Civilization 3. Destiny. Well, you have just lost all credibility. Crash Bandicoot 2, The Wrath of Cortex.
It's a good game.
Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3?
I mean, I'd play it. I'm not sure it's in the same tier as what we're talking about, but...
Golden Sun, The Lost Age. That's... All right.
Yeah, I'd play it.
I can get into that. To the Moon.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Bejeweled. Let's do a show about Bejeweled.
Yeah. Another game to maybe put on a list like this that's super iconic, maybe the original Myst.
Yeah.
That's a game I've started a half dozen times and never progressed more than a couple hours into.
That's true. I have... That was like jaw-dropping to me. Like when you go into Best Buy and they had all those computers on a demo just showing off that game. Yep. And I'd be like, God, I gotta play this game. It looks amazing.
Yeah. Wasn't quite as fun to play, but it looked amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So here it says The Last of Us, Red Dead Redemption 2, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. All right, well...
Yeah, I would have put that on the list, except not having played Ocarina of Time. I feel like, at least my understanding is, both great games, but definitely Ocarina of Time's better.
I would, yeah. I didn't mind Majora's Mask, but it's definitely different from Ocarina of Time. Let's see here. Chrono Trigger.
Mm-hmm.
DJ Hero 2.
Oh, that's an interesting choice.
I'm not going to say it's the best game of all time, but I will say this. I love DJ Hero. It was fascinating.
Yeah, I played one of them with my college roommate a fair amount and enjoyed it. That's about as much as I'd say about it.
Paper Mario.
Mm-hmm. I would like to play that.
World of Warcraft. Super Meat Boy.
Maybe Half-Life 2? Half-Life 1?
Half-Life 2 is like apparently the greatest game of all time, according to a lot of people. I've played through that game. Mm-hmm. So I do have to say, I'm sure when that game came out, it was revolutionary. I played that game well after it came out, and I was like, yeah, this is a standard first-person shooter. And I just, I was just like, I don't have the love for that game as everybody else does, because I wasn't in the zeitgeist, I don't think.
Yeah.
So Stardew Valley, Tomb Raider 2.
I mean, again, for me, I would have to default to 1 based on nostalgia, even if 2 is better.
Right.
I mean, 1 I've played through the whole game. I adored it. It was one of those, top 5 defining games for the PS1 for me. Running around in caves and shooting T-Rexes. I'm like, it doesn't get much better than this.
Yeah.
It's still good. It is a bit tough to play, though, at this point.
Yeah, it's rough to play. Let's see here. Oddworld Abe's Odyssey. Wipeout.
Yeah, I mean, all the Wipeouts are good.
Yes, they are.
Another one, two more to maybe put on this list, actually, of iconic games would be Kingdom Hearts. Maybe the first one, but I know you've played through them all.
Yeah.
Another one, maybe Shadow of the Colossus.
That's a good one.
I adore all of those games, but I have not finished Shadow of the Colossus.
I finished Shadow of the Colossus long time ago. We did it on the stream back whenever we used to do the streaming stuff. That was a good game.
I mean, maybe stretching a bit, but KOTOR is very good. I don't think it would be this iconic or, comparable to some of the other ones we've discussed, but, it's a good game.
True. Let's see here. Metroid Prime. Okay. I can give them that. Metroid Prime is a fantastic game, but I would still say if we're going for classics of all time, Super Metroid would be the one to choose.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Gravity Rush.
Would love to play it. Looks fantastic.
And that is it for Mashables. I don't know. Most influential game titles by Esquire. I don't know how much I want to believe Esquire here, but we'll see. Dark Souls 3. Shovel.
Most influential is Dark Souls 3?
One of them, I guess.
I don't understand the logic of that.
Shovel Knight. Overwatch. The Last of Us. Minecraft. Grand Theft Auto 5.
Minecraft would be a good one-off. Again, just to dive in, play it for 4 or 5 hours, and then, what'd you like, what didn't you like?
Right. World of Warcraft. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, that's probably my least liked Zelda.
Portal 2.
If only because I wanted so much out of it.
I've never actually made it very far in Breath of the Wild. I made it to a Divine Beast, but never actually finished it.
To be fair then, that could be on the list given how well it's been received and how little either of us have played of it.
True. It's very true. So he says Portal 2, Pokemon Red and Blue, Wii Sports, I don't know about that, Street Fighter 2.
Classic, but
can't really talk
better
about
as
it.
A one-off.
Yeah. Tetris.
Yeah, I mean, iconic as it comes. My last VR purchase was the Tetris Worlds in VR.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Super Mario World. And The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. This isn't helping. So I don't know what to say here, Matt. I feel like it's got to be either a Mario, a Zelda, or a Final Fantasy.
Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, Chrono Trigger or a Final Fantasy. I know you touched on Suikoden.
Yeah.
I have never played a Suikoden game. One of my RPG soft spots are those PS1 RPGs. I really like it's almost like getting to experience nostalgia for games I never played. And, whenever I find a good new PS1 game, I tend to get a little bit of that. Just a bit of that era. So I have enjoyed a fair amount of PS1 games that I usually play on my Vita, and fairly well enjoyed them. So, I mean, I haven't played Suikoden. I've had it loaded up and ready to go, but I know Suikoden 2 is usually regarded as the better game. But I thought Suikoden 3 was the one.
3 is the most well regarded.
I thought that was the one everybody loved.
Suikoden 3 was on the PS2 instead of the PS1, right?
Was I don't know. You're asking the wrong person. I don't know. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess hard to really know since I haven't played any of them. I would like to play them though, that's for sure.
Apparently, there's a lot of these games. I didn't realize that. Suikoden started in 1995. Suikoden 2, Suikoden 3, PlayStation 2, Suikoden 4, PlayStation 2, Suikoden 5, PlayStation 2. Huh. Apparently there were re-releases on the PSP. They had Suikoden 1 and 2, but I think it was only for Japan, yeah. Well, Matt,
whatever we pick, it's got to be one that we've already mentioned, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of good games.
Yeah. We're not going to please everybody. We're not going to be able to say there's going to be some people who write in saying you should have done this. Well, I'm sorry. We chose something else. So, Matt, ball's in your court right now.
I mean, if I had to start by narrowing it, I would definitely say Chrono Trigger, Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, maybe StarCraft if you haven't played it.
Okay.
If I had one more, let's say Final Fantasy IV to get one on the list. 7, 4.
Which one would you choose?
I would choose 4, I think, because I've never touched it.
Okay. I would be willing to do that. So the one with Cecil.
Yeah. Do you wanna kick one of those 5 out?
Oh man. I would. I would kick. You know, that's 5 top quality games right there.
Yeah.
I don't want to be this way, but I'd kick out Chrono Trigger.
Okay.
I've beat that game twice.
Yep. Yep.
I don't want to be that way. I would prefer to play Final Fantasy IV over Chrono Trigger.
Yeah. If I had to kick out one of the last 4 here, I would definitely kick out Mario 64.
Yeah, that was going to be.
I mean, it's as iconic as it gets, but I've also played a ton of it.
Right.
Not sequentially a ton of it, but I've just I maybe it's only me that would think this, but I also think that I still remember those first times that I saw Mario 64 in a store and was blown away. And in some ways, I feel like the more I play it, the less I will remember it in that way. And I do still want to play it at some point, but I mean, this is a game I've started like a dozen times, and while I want to get past that initial nostalgia rush, I feel like I've experienced some of the highs already of Mario, and I want to test a new game.
Gotcha.
So I think of the 4, that would be the one I would have to boot.
Okay. So that leaves us with
Final Fantasy IV,
Final Fantasy IV,
Ocarina of Time,
StarCraft, and StarCraft. Whew. Do you want me to remove one?
Yep.
I honestly don't want to remove any of these guys.
I mean, I feel like I know which one you'd remove, but
the thing is, I know you think I want to remove StarCraft.
Yeah, yeah.
But to be honest with you, I don't want to remove StarCraft because I have never played that game. I think Blizzard is amazing developers. I know Ken absolutely loves StarCraft. I know everybody loves StarCraft.
Yeah, I do too.
My issue is I hate real-time strategy games. Like, I don't like them at all. I've played a ton of them. Like, you couldn't find a person who when I was a kid, Warcraft, Orcs, and Humans, played the crap out of that game.
Yep.
Command and Conquer Red Alert, I played the crap out of those games. But
yeah, me too.
If you sat me down in front of them right now, I would be like, I don't want to play this. I would, but I am fascinated to see StarCraft. But I cannot fathom deleting these other 2.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where I am. I mean, StarCraft is one of my favorite games of all time. I adore it. Especially to someone who hasn't played it, I would, there aren't many higher recommendations, but of the three, I don't know. It's tough to stack up against the other two.
This is rough. This is rough. Okay. All right, reverse card here. If you had to delete from one of these three, which one would you delete?
I would probably delete StarCraft, mostly because of my fear that you'd get an hour in and hate it, and then that would be the whole Game 100 episode. Is this game is shit?
I would not do that. I would not do that. My thing is, I can understand when a game is not my wheelhouse, but I can still see a game being a good game.
Yeah. The counterpoint here is that we even could play some multiplayer and the story, so you'd get a bit more dimension on this game. The counterpoint, though, is that from what I remember, a lot of my favorite parts actually came in Brood War, which, amps up both the characters you can play in multiplayer, and the units you can control, but also, a whole separate storyline. And so to only play StarCraft means we'd cut out half of what StarCraft is.
Is StarCraft just the Terrans?
No, I believe it's all three. So, I mean, both the game and the expansion were a good value. I thought both games had all three races.
Okay, so, all right, I distinctly remember there being a battle chest that had 3 games in it, or 3 things in it. StarCraft, I guess StarCraft Brood War. Was there another expansion?
Nope, that's all that's in the StarCraft Battle Chest.
I remember seeing 3 boxes. One with the Terran guy, one with the Protoss guy, and one with Kerrigan on it. What were those 3?
Well, I know StarCraft 2 had 3 boxes.
Okay, maybe I'm getting those mixed up. Well, no, I don't know. Who knows?
I don't remember seeing a StarCraft 1 box that has Zerg on it. Just one that has Protoss and one that has Kerrigan.
Okay. I thought I remember one with what's his name, Raynor on it. That's the thing.
Yeah, in StarCraft 2 there is.
I know a lot about these characters because I play a lot of Heroes of the Storm. But, yeah, okay.
I guess the third item in the original battle chest is strategy guides.
Could be. That might be it. So, I'm deleting StarCraft off of this list.
Yeah, I think sadly that one has to go.
I think we will eventually do StarCraft. But just not for Game 100.
Yep. I would agree with that sentiment.
So, that leaves The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and Final Fantasy IV.
Yeah, it does. I really want to play both these games, but for me, it's not that hard of a decision.
I think I know what the decision is. I think I need to just go ahead and delete Final Fantasy off this list, don't I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have played a lot of Final Fantasies and even beaten one. I understand why they're loved. I do feel that. And I want more of that story. I want Final Fantasy IV. Okay. None of those things really apply to Zelda.
So let's just say the last 4 games that we deleted off this list, we're probably going to get to eventually.
Yeah.
But our Game 100 is going to be The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Which means I got to go find me a copy of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. I really wish it would release on the Switch.
Yeah, me too.
But it looks like I'm going to have to boot up my 3DS and play that. Because I am not going out and buying a 64.
Yeah,
I don't even know where my 3DS is at this point.
I feel like it's in the same room as me. I can sense it near me, but I don't know exactly where it is residing.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we ripped that Band-Aid off. To be honest with you, I knew that this was coming.
Yeah, I kind of expected this, but I'm glad we were able to toss some other ideas out there because, certainly could have gone elsewhere. Chrono Trigger for me was maybe my second choice. Yeah. Once we started discussing them.
Yeah, I hate to delete it like that. I mean, I beat that game twice. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
That game's also long, which I'm saying that, and I'm starting to remember how long Link to the Past is. Or not Link to the Past, but Ocarina of Time is. Ocarina of Time, how long to beat? How long to beat? I'm going to guess around 30 hours.
Yeah, I'm looking at 26 and a half.
Yep. 26 and a half. Main story plus extra. 31 and a half. There you go. Oh, there's a GameCube version that comes with Ocarina of Time and Masters Ocarina of Time Master Quest, whatever the hell that is. I own a GameCube. Probably gonna get the 3DS version.
It's probably the most accessible, I would think.
I would assume so. I wonder if it's one of those where I can use like that 3DS Plus with the other control stick.
Mm-hmm.
I use it for Monster Hunter a lot. And then again, there's another task is finding that thing because I don't know where that is.
You got to reassemble.
Yeah. So there you go. We do have an email. It came in hot off the presses. It's right here. Comes in from Dustin. It says it's labeled Misconnections. Says, hey guys, I missed writing into Man of Medan episode, but I did get to play through it with a friend online through Game Pass, so spoilers. Okay, well, it's fine. I'm reading it anyway, because this won't go out until the next week. I thought the game was okay. We laughed more at the classic Ken doll characters you try to control and the jankiness of the game more than anything. We had a lot of connection issues and lag that made us mess up some key QTEs, so we ended up with 3 dead people. Ooh. Shouldn't have drank that beer, I guess. Haha. The story, yeah, the story seemed rushed, and the exploration parts were long and boring. I wouldn't mind it if they just got rid of those parts altogether and just made it a dialogue and QTE game. Honestly, I hope Little Hope has a little more budget and polish compared to this game. Next,
do you know at all how Man of Medan did sales wise?
I don't know. I think it did decent.
I mean, it clearly, for me at least, didn't have nearly the buzz of Until Dawn.
It definitely didn't. I feel like it had a lot of buzz when they first announced the Dark Picture Chronicles. Because it was like, oh, the creators of Until Dawn are now making a whole series of games, kind of thing. But then when Man of Medan came out, it kind of just fizzled out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Up next, spoilers for Folklore. Since I never did get that last email, and I thought I'd share my thoughts here during the intermission. The maze level I didn't find too bad since I caught on what was going on pretty quick. Hell was fine, but that long elevator was a bit annoying, and I had to look up that mini-boss weakness since he would keep switching it. Yeah, I remember that. Holy crap.
Yeah, me too.
I wish you could could have made the decision yourself on whether or not to repair the tree or destroy both to keep it as is for multiple endings. Seems like a missed opportunity. I was confused by Keats and how the ending played out, but I'm glad Drew looked it up to explain it to everyone. I'm sure I had other stuff to say, but I already forgot, and I already traded the game in, too, so I didn't think it was worth keeping. Spoilers for God of War. So I have a few things to say about that last episode. It just hurts me inside to hear Drew saying all he had to do was mash X during the final boss since it was so easy. Turn your damn difficulty up. Obviously, it's not challenging you and limits your enjoyment of the combat in the game, so don't complain it's too easy while playing on easy. Okay, first off, I wasn't playing on easy. I was playing on normal.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because there are some games that I would play on easier, right, as we went through, a good example being The Witcher and The Witcher 2, right, where I want that story and, combat can kind of piss off a little bit. But, God of War, neither of us played it on easy, but it's certainly a game I wouldn't want to play on easy. Yeah. Just knowing that the combat is a key part of why God of War has always been so good.
Says, I really hope both of you go back to the side quests since there's a lot of content there worth checking out. Did you guys know that the opening scene you're chopping down trees with hand marks on them? Those were put there by Faye as a magic barrier to hide their home, and by cutting them down to burn them for her funeral pyre, it nullified the barrier, exposing your location to the gods. When Baldur comes looking for someone, it's not Kratos he's looking for, it's Faye. Also, you guys didn't talk about a very important part of the mural at the end of the game. When he lifts the flap, the image shows Loki killing his father, Kratos. I apparently didn't see that.
Oh, no, I did see it because Kratos takes a little extra time to look at it and then doesn't mention it, I think, if I remember correctly. And then he puts the flap back down that covers it and then walks out.
I do remember that part, but I guess I don't know. I must have not paid attention or something. I don't know. I didn't catch that. So wow, there's another dynamic I didn't see.
A foreshadowing for Game 2, Ragnarok.
Maybe. I can't recall the specific of what the world serpent says to Loki, but it's something like, "I have met you before." And in Norse mythology, Loki is his dad. And during Ragnarok, the serpent fights Thor, and Thor punches him so hard he goes back to the past, or in this game, the Lake of the Nine. Also, I'm surprised you didn't talk about the Norse God of War more, and in Odin's treasure room, it shows different God of War emblems for different mythologies. Anyway, like I said, I hope you guys go back to play more, or at least meet all the dragons. God of War is probably my game of this generation, along with Bloodborne, The Witcher 3, and Zelda Breath of the Wild. So what's game 100 going to be, and why is it going to be Final Fantasy VI? Ha ha, Dustin.
It was discussed.
It was discussed. Unfortunately, it seems like Final Fantasy IV beat it out, and then the Green Tunic Warrior himself beat out that. So it's going to be The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And I feel good about it. We'll see.
Yeah, I do too. I'm a little bit concerned that it just won't hold up for me. But there must be a reason people hold it in such high regard. So I really want to dive into it. I'm really excited to play it. But I'm not 100% convinced I'll love it yet.
Do you know what happens in that game?
I know absolutely nothing of the story.
Okay. All right.
Not even a whisper.
Some things go down.
I assume he time travels.
Yes. It's an interesting way of handling things. In fact, I would go as far as to say a little bit of Final Fantasy VI influences, or not six, yeah, Final Fantasy VI influences are in there. If you know what happens in Final Fantasy VI. But yeah, there you go. That's our game 100, which I knew from the beginning that was what we were going to get.
Yeah, I would have given it maybe a 70 to 80% chance, like straight off the bat. Like this is iconic enough. I've never even touched it.
Yeah.
It is available, and not only is it an iconic game, but it's an iconic game in an iconic series that I also know extremely little about.
Right. Well, there you go. So, yeah. I think that's all we can talk about. I know. I know we said the Sunset Overdrive. Since we're going to be basically we're recording on Thursday. Tomorrow, Man of Medan is going to go live. This episode is going to go live the week after. So I don't know what Matt's plans are. I know you said that we would discuss it a little bit later on, but if we want to change it, we totally can. Matt, we can do something else, so you can join us if you want. But yeah, we'll keep it tentative. Sunset Overdrive for now. I actually just reinstalled it yesterday, so we'll see. But we're gonna obviously we got a week buffer to think about it since we're releasing these slowly. But yeah.
I guess the one thing I'd be interested in is if anybody has a definitive game that they would have suggested above all the others that we discussed, or one of the ones we discussed. I'd be curious. We settled on one that seemed a little bit predestined given what we've talked about before. But if there's a single compelling reason why one of the other ones might have been chosen over this, I'd be curious what people would think.
Right.
What they'd be which ones they'd be passionate about.
I would say the same thing. So if you would like to let us know, the email is drew@ztgd.com. Let us know what game would you have done for game 100, and why are we stupid for doing Zelda? I want to know. I'm sure some people have some choice words for us.
Yeah, other than Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah,
now that we know that's on the runner-up list.
Yeah,
or the massively suggested list.
So here's my thing. I'm going to get a lot of crap from Ken tomorrow when I tell him that our game 100's Ocarina of Time, because he'll tell me it should have been A Link to the Past.
Yeah.
And that's also a generational thing. Ken's slightly older than me. He's more nostalgic for that game.
Yeah, I can certainly appreciate where it stands. But again, even if, let's say, they were equally nostalgic and equally influential, I think one with a bit more story would probably be the one that's better to discuss.
I think so, too.
And more mechanics, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So, I guess we'll go from there. But I'm gonna leave off with that. If you'd like to follow us on Twitter, I am at Drew Leachman. Matt is at REMGS. The podcast itself is at ZTGD Phoenix Down. You can also tweet to us. Let us know what your thoughts are on Game 100. And if anybody out there who played Man of Medan, please let us know as well through email or through Twitter. And let us know how you feel about it. I think that's pretty much it, though. We're gonna head on out. I'll keep everybody up to date on the Twitter on what we decide to do as far as Game 98 is. And we'll play it by ear. We'll see what happens. But I think until then, I am Drew.
And I'm Matt.
And we're out of here. Hope you guys have a great week. Happy Halloween. This will go out during the Halloween season. Stay safe out there. And we'll catch you next time. We don't know what it is yet, so keep an eye on that Twitter, and we'll keep you updated. But we'll be back very shortly.